Welcome to Critical Junction, Episode 10. I'm Mark.
Hi, I'm the antithesis of Mark. I'm Luke.
Jesus Christ.
I'm Jill.
Today we're talking about alternative medicine and faith healing and all that fun stuff. So to begin, I just wanted to bring up the legislation in Ontario that passed 2 years ago. This is from an article from Global News. Ontario's move to regulate the field of homeopathy in a way similar to how it governs doctors and nurses, making it the first province to do so, is being greeted with skepticism from some in the medical and scientific community. The province's Homeopathy Act, which has been in the works since 2007, is set to receive royal assent on Wednesday. Now, that was 2 years ago, obviously, so time has kind of passed. But the basic idea behind homeopathy is that it's based on the belief that like cures like, and that dilution of medicine, or homeopaths call the process potentiation, renders it not weaker, but stronger. What do you guys think of homeopathy? Well, first of all, what do you guys think of the fact that Ontario regulated the field of homeopathy 2 years ago?
I'm a little conflicted about it, I think, because they are, in one sense, almost legitimizing it before it's even gone through the type of testing and proofs that conventional medicine has already done to get the kind of regulation that the government does. At the same time, maybe this will be an impetus to have that kind of alternative medicine type of theories tested. Mm-hmm.
That's the same problem I have. It's kind of like a double-edged sword in that it might. Well, I think it's good that it's being regulated, but at the same time, we're giving it a little bit more legitimacy, whereas in reality, it has no scientific merit whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. So how is it given legitimacy? How are you claiming that it?
Well, by treating it the same way that we treat regular health science, we're telling people essentially that this is a legitimate field, that they can go and seek homeopathic remedies for something that's bothering them. Homeopaths are prescribing essentially water to people.
Vibration water. Yeah, that's what I was telling you about, this idea of capturing the vibration of something in water to then, what is it, this idea of treating like with like or something like that?
Yeah, the idea is that rather than, it's treating like cures like is, let's say poison ivy. If you dilute a tiny amount of poison ivy in a buttload of water, it'll treat symptoms of like skin rashes or something.
Okay.
It makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Especially when you think about like the level of dilution we're talking about here. We're talking like down to the atomic level. Yeah. Like if as much as possible, if they could find a way to just put one atom in like a gallon of water, that's what they would prefer to do. And that would do something.
There was a documentary by
that would make it most powerful.
Exactly. Like there was a documentary by Richard Dawkins called The Irrational Health Service a few years ago. At one point he talks about homeopathy and the amount that would need to be diluted. And he says, in order to get one molecule of the active substance, you'd need to imbibe all of the molecules in the solar system. So that's just how diluted the substance has to be in order for it to be considered effective in homeopathy, which makes absolutely no sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what is this idea that the more diluted, the better? Like, because I can understand this entire principle. I always think of like The Princess Bride, where he's doing the poisoning thing, and that guy's going inconceivable the entire time, and then in the end, he's slowly developed the immunity to the poison anyways, and so he is immune because he slowly took small amounts. I mean, it makes sense. Isn't that how vaccines are giving you a small amount of something to help you to counteract it?
It's not that they're giving you a small amount. It's that they're giving you like an inactive version of it, or a non-sickening version.
Oh yeah.
Of it. Yeah, it's like a dead version of the virus.
Okay.
So that it actually makes your immune system kick in and attack it as if it were a regular alive virus.
What we're saying is not the same principles at all.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
not at all.
Okay.
No.
All right.
No, this is about as much as possible not having any of the medicine or the active
By
agent.
not having it becomes it.
Yeah, because as much as possible, you want it just to have like been in the same room with the stuff that's supposed to be the active agent.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why people will still.
I don't understand how it's compelling in the least.
I don't.
So
I don't
are we
know.
starting with like the least convincing holistic medicine thing
I don't know.
of all?
I don't know if it's necessarily the least convincing. I think it might even be the most relevant of the alternative medicine ones because it seems to be the one that's getting the most traction and has been adopted by the government's
It's been regulated like an actual practice.
agencies.
So what bothers me is like the entire College of Homeopaths of Ontario is completely self-regulated. Like that's what they meant, but when they introduced this legislation, like, okay, you guys are going to regulate yourselves now. You have to set up this college and make sure that you guys are following the stringent guidelines and shit. But like the idea behind that just it makes it seem legitimate. Whereas in reality, it's total fucking like you're giving people water and hoping them.
See the thing about doing the science to prove that a medicine is what should be used to treat something, you're testing for safety and efficacy.
Right.
And I mean it's bad enough that they haven't really tested for safety. Which I guess most people think they don't need to because mostly it's water. But then they actually do start putting in this other stuff that's just like, I don't know, like herbs and stuff that just have like a holistic niceness to them.
Niceness. Well, there was
but some of that stuff that they're putting in there, you never know. Sometimes it could be just garbage. It could be something that's completely not healthy.
I remember my ex-girlfriend having being told by a holistic doctor that she had a large amount of heavy metals in her body that she needed to get rid of, and so they gave her a holistic pill, and it was just turmeric.
What? They gave her turmeric?
Yeah, it was turmeric.
A pill made of like
it was turmeric. It was compressed turmeric.
That's a spicier sugar pill in that case. But there's an article that was published in The Lancet where they did a meta-analysis of other different studies related to homeopathy, and their finding was that homeopathic treatments have the exact same pretty much result as any placebo effect. Mm-hmm. So the final interpretation in the abstract here is where was it? Sorry. Okay, when account was taken for these biases in the analysis, there was weak evidence for a specific effect of homeopathic remedies, but strong evidence for specific effects of conventional interventions. So what they're saying is, it's total fucking bullshit.
Well, hold on. They're saying that it worked in the sense of
it worked as a placebo.
As a placebo. Okay, so the mind itself. Like, what do you call it when the mind plays into it? It's like keeping a positive mind. You'll often hear doctors talking about like you got to stay positive and stuff like that. Like what would we call this? This would be not a placebo effect, but it would be.
It's in some way psychosomatic.
Psychosomatic. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I guess.
Although psychosomatic describes somebody like exhibiting the symptoms of a disease. Or suffering the symptoms of a disease that's actually caused by their own mind kind of affecting their immune system and stuff like that. Could we
say the same for finding, therefore, like in a sense, like is there a word then for the opposite of that then, I guess?
I don't know.
The mental causing of good effects in a sense.
No, I think that's just placebo.
Placebo effect. Yeah. Okay, we'll just call it placebo.
Okay. Yeah. The thing that bugs me about this alternative medicine stuff is that it seems like to the people who are attracted to it, they're attracted to it because it's alternative medicine, like quote alternative unquote. When the fact of the matter is, medicine just as a concept is just the idea of things that we've found that are tested scientifically that actually are remedies for ailments or whatever. So essentially, I mean, alternative medicine that's tested and proven safe and and efficacious is just called medicine.
Yeah. Like I read
alternative medicine, therefore, is not medicine.
Yeah, that's really similar to a quote I read the other day on somewhere on Facebook. I can't remember who was saying it, but like, if alternative medicine were effective, it would just be called medicine.
That's it. Yeah.
Can I bring up the case that I heard about? I believe it was a couple of decades now ago. I was taking a bus across Canada, and I happened to be sitting beside a First Nations woman who was reading the Maclean's magazine, and she was actually studying and had just started studying faith healing, and she was talking a lot about quantum physics, and
yeah, that plays into the homeopathy stuff too,
right?
They're going on some kind of theory that at a quantum level, that's how that one molecule of the active agent is affecting all of the other molecules in the diluted solution.
A lot of homeopaths bring quantum physics into it because it gives it that allure of mystery and pseudo-scientific jargon that might be appealing to some people, and they might end up thinking, hey, like, quantum physics, it's science, right? So this has to be real.
Well, in this case, and I wanted to come step forward with some sort of proof of faith healing having worked, and the only one that I know of was one that we had discussed because it was in the Maclean's magazine that day that she was reading it, and she lent it to me, and I read it, and it was Ronnie Hawkins was diagnosed with cancer and had basically given up and went, well, what do I have to lose? I hear there's a kid in BC that does faith healing.
I remember this.
And, well, he sent a photograph, or he communicated with this Adam kid, who at the time was a kid. I believe he was still a teenager. And the kid asked for a photo and said that he'd work on it. And sure enough, Ronnie Hawkins no longer had cancer when he went back to the doctor. And so it appears that this kid is now known to be the person that cured Ronnie Hawkins of this thing. And so I looked up this kid. His name was Adam something, and he's not a kid anymore. And he's totally selling the whole holistic medicine thing now. Like, now he's a business, it seems. Right. You know.
Well, two things to that point. I think, well, first of all, cancer is known to spontaneously go into remission.
Sure.
Like, it just happens, and could just be coincidence that it happened at the same time that he got in touch with his kid. And
post hoc ergo
propter hoc. Yeah, exactly. And just because an event's cause is not immediately apparent or understandable does not mean that it must have a supernatural origin. I love that quote.
Sure, yeah. Did you like my quote?
I mean, it would be great if it were the case, but then I'd have to wonder why. Well, I mean, does this kid have like a documented track record where like a certain percentage beyond what you might find just from the spontaneous remission or placebo effect?
Well, I believe it started with his mom.
Okay.
That he was a younger child, and he uses a visualization technique of some sort, where he visualizes the sickness, and then through deep, in a sense, meditation and focus, he focuses on removing it with some sort of a mental image sort of thing. And it supposedly did work for his mom, and that's when he basically went, oh, well, I just cured my mom's disease, so now I can move on and help the rest of the world.
Has he gone through any kind of double-blind studies to test this in like a laboratory setting?
I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know. I looked into it, and as soon as I saw that it looked like a big sham business at this point, I went, you know what? I kind of just want to talk about it blindly at this point and bring about just the idea.
If it was actually legitimately effective, you would think that this would have already been like top news all over everywhere, and it wouldn't have just been an anecdote about Ronnie Hawkins. It would have been like, okay, there's this weird thing in the world. Everybody all over the world knows about this BC child because there's something real there, and the fact that we don't hear about people going to see this kid and getting cured all the time.
But that's not the case. Like, he is traveling the world right now, it seems, teaching others how to do it. So he is making money doing these teaching sort of thing, but he is teaching other people his technique rather than just curing them kind of thing. He'd rather other people just do it themselves kind of thing.
If this were in any way effective as a legitimate practice, go do the clinical trials, get it, do the double-blind studies, get his Nobel Prize,
Yeah,
So,
there you go.
but hold on. Like, if you think about it, I mean, really, he would be just tied down in a government lab, and it would be terrible. Like, if he went, you know what, I need to show this to the world, it would be awful. And do you really think he'd step forward and do that?
I think the reason.
No, but wouldn't.
What I mean is the way the world is organized.
If he's traveling the world, seeing anybody at all,
yeah.
Then you would think that some qualified scientists are actually trying to go see him and confirm that this is effective.
Have you ever heard of this guy? I believe it was maybe from the 70s or something. He was a guy in Asia somewhere that was able to control chi. And does this ring a bell at all?
There are a lot of guys.
Aren't there a lot of people in Asia that think they can control chi?
Yeah, but there was some documentation. But as soon as they found out that this documentation was going to make it to the real world, he immediately quit and told them to destroy everything. But there is some documentation online.
Isn't that convenient?
He didn't want it to get out, kind of thing. But in terms of the evidence that they were getting from this guy, it did seem very real, and he was able to.
Well, now it's completely anecdotal because he destroyed all whatever evidence.
No, there is still evidence online in terms of they were doing tests, and they couldn't explain it. He was able to emanate some sort of power from his hands that other people aren't able to. That seemed electrical,
Who was this guy?
I don't remember his name, but if you look it up, I'm sure you could find it very quickly. I can't remember his name though.
Mm.
A lot of good that does.
I mean, I've seen some stuff about people who are like relieving muscle tension in people's necks and backs or whatever just by like hovering their hands around them. So what they have to do is they sit in a chair. The faith healer or whatever stands behind them, and he gets them to either remove their shirt or lower their shirt, and then he starts waving his hands around. And to prove that it's effective, they had like what do you call it, like infrared cameras to give a heat reading.
Yeah.
And then they would see that the heat would dissipate as he's doing his thing.
Okay.
But you can reproduce that just by doing exactly what he does, which is just to remove the clothing that's keeping the warmth in your muscles, or waving your hands around and actually creating some nice, refreshing air circulation and wind, and that also dissipates the heat.
Welcome to thermodynamics, folks.
Well, yeah, welcome to second grade physics.
So in this case, in terms of what I was seeing this guy doing, he was touching them, first of all. He was doing more of a massage type thing.
Oh, okay.
But these people were going into spasms, like uncontrollable spasms, and going like, I've never experienced this before, and it feels like there's electricity.
Have you seen the faith healers in the churches?
They start flopping around.
In the American South.
They're sleight of hand type stuff, right? Like are we talking about the people that?
It's the actual deep South. Faith healers that they get people on the ground writhing and flailing about, and
they do this when they bring certain people up on stage that have some kind of an ailment, and these people have just spent like 2 hours in this whole ceremony that's all about like kind of building this mood and euphoria, and then the faith healer comes up and smacks them on the forehead, and they just collapse.
Right. Like
some of them go into convulsions.
Is this like Christian?
Yeah, the Christian stuff. Right.
Yeah.
So the writhing and stuff like that, I mean, we've seen that happens in a completely again probably psychosomatic.
This seems different though in terms of the massage, because he's not loading you with any sort of myth or building up like a big momentum in terms of theory or anything like that. He was really just going, and I'm going to give you a massage, and then the guy's going, holy shit, and spazzing out. Kind of thing.
Did he introduce the idea that he's going to be healing them or anything beforehand?
Well, he is a practicing.
Okay, well, just going into it, I think people are already pre-programmed to think something might happen.
Yeah.
Just by
hypnotic suggestion is pretty powerful stuff. Like like this Darren Brown guy you sent us a video this week about Darren Brown, and I've seen him like teach other people to do to do hypnotism, and he basically gives them like a 1 hour primer course or something before they go out, and just the setting and the audience kind of being suggested to them that they're going to see a hypnotist. People just submit to it, and they end up getting technically hypnotized and being totally open to the suggestions of a complete amateur that hasn't known how to do hypnotism until any more than an hour ago.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So with this kind of healer kind of guy, there's a whole suggestion thing that's going on with that. Even if there's not an elaborate kind of ceremony like you would get with a full what do you call it, the evangelical Christian kind of.
I'll find
service.
The footage of this guy.
I would like, yeah.
I'll find the footage and I'll post it with the
we'll
with the
post
links
it
so
under
that we can watch
the
it.
video
And,
with the links. Yeah, that'd be great.
So, because you're not any more likely to believe it if you see it anyways. So,
no, exactly. Yeah.
Along the same lines.
I need numbers. Damn it.
Exactly.
Just show me the numbers.
Show me the stats. But while we're on the topic of weird massage and energy shit, what are your opinions on Reiki? Because this is another one of those practices that it seems legitimate just by the fact that there are degrees that you can earn in Reiki and different levels. Like, you can be a Reiki master and start teaching other people. Like, okay, what do you think? Just right off the bat.
So give us a description of
what is Reiki?
What Reiki is? What's the technique? What's the
it's kind of like
theory or whatever.
It's another one of those energy manipulation things where you can give a psychic massage to someone and relieve tension in their chakras and all that weird shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is just by hovering your hands over a person's body.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's also complete bunk. I'm sorry to say. I mean, if it were effective, you would see actual clinics, and they would put out the data that shows that it's confirmed and that it works. The fact that they refuse to put out any data there's that old cliche that absence of evidence is not evidence of absence.
Right.
Well, that's fucking bullshit. Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. It totally is.
Well, not in particle science, it's not, right?
In particles?
It is. It's all just energy. Nothing's ever really touching, right? Am I wrong here?
When you say,
like, I'm talking at the microscopic level, things aren't solid.
Sure, they're not solid, but
they're not even things. They are just energy and waves in that sense.
Yeah, but the theories are confirmed through some kind of experimentation, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Like that, there's a difference between saying that the universe is made of particles that never actually touch, and by waving my hands on your body, I'm going to heal you of your cancer.
I'm not saying that that's necessarily true, but what I'm saying is there may be things possible that we don't understand yet. Like we're.
Mm-hmm.
But things
I feel like we're very.
But I find it insulting that none of these things that persist and keep getting pushed as being like these kind of unexpectedly unusual things that are supposed to be effective. All of them refuse to actually conform to any type of empirical.
That's my problem too. Like, they refuse to be tested under laboratory conditions because they know they're going to be called out on it.
So could it be, though, that, let's say, I'm going to use the example of psychic abilities and stuff like that too, because it's just a very common one where you see this idea that most are fake, but every once in a while you see someone that is real, and they're a real, fortune teller or something like that. You know what I mean? This idea that someone is always, in a sense, ruining it for everyone else, but there may be some truth in there in something, but everything is eventually ruined by business and money kind of thing,
right? Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that it could be that there's some truth
somewhere. Can you name a psychic who's been confirmed as having actual powers?
Well, I want to go back to the faith healing thing, and we can go back to that Adam guy who was supposedly cured. What's his face? Ronnie Hawkins.
Ronnie Hawkins, sure.
Okay, sure.
So we can remain skeptical and go, yes, cancer can just disappear, but it does seem to point to the idea that...
No, it doesn't, because he's another example of someone who refuses to be tested under lab conditions.
Well, we don't really know that, though.
Like, has he been?
I don't know. Yeah, I have no clue. I don't know. We'd have to look up this Adam guy, whoever he is.
Because that's my problem.
Yeah. if he is, I would like insist that
we do know that Ronnie Hawkins was I can't say cured of cancer because we don't know if it was actually cured of cancer, but the cancer was no longer there after this kid did do this. Yeah. He went to the doctors.
Has this kid healed any amputees?
Amputees?
Yeah. A lot of the time, I see people getting cured of cancer.
Limb on there.
That's just it. That's just it. If it was really as miraculous and effective, there's no reason it shouldn't work just as well on something where
that doesn't exist anymore.
What, amputees?
Well, no. The limb is gone.
Regrowing a limb, you could regrow the limb technically, or not technically. Sorry, I mean
it would take a hell of a long time to regrow.
Hypothetically, or whatever. If the person is about the healing properties of the body are about like cell regeneration and things like that, right? So if he could actually do something miraculous with cell regeneration, he should be able to have someone regrow an amputated limb, right, but you'll never fucking see that because it's too definitive a proof. With cancer, we know that it can go into remission. It can.
My problem with this definitive proof thing is, I mean, I always think of something like E.T., you know, and how basically the guys in the white lab coats just come and take everything away and we never see it again. You know what I mean?
Right.
This is just a common thing in the back of our minds. We use it in art.
Yeah, but if this kid was like that, the guys in the white lab coats would have come and taken him away, but they haven't. He's still going around and charging people.
Maybe there's a healthiness of keeping the skeptical.
Them, unquote.
It's the same with Deepak Chopra. He's still going around doing his thing and making millions off of these people who just believe the bullshit that he's like. He's one of the biggest woo peddlers like you can possibly imagine. Like, and nothing he says is demonstrable in reality.
Well, what's shameful about it is that he's constantly invoking theoretical physics concepts that he has absolutely zero credentials in, zero training. Like, if this guy
he's not a quantum physicist.
No, he's not a quantum physicist, but yet he keeps wanting to claim the authority of something that's actually scientific but that nobody understands.
Exactly. Like, he'll invoke quantum physics in his lectures and he'll just spout jargon that sounds scientifically plausible and yet has no place being mentioned in conjunction with the other bit that he's talking about, right? Like, you can't quantum heal somebody. That's not a thing.
So I wanted to bring up a name. His name is Paul Feyerabend.
Feyerabend, yes.
Feyerabend?
Yeah.
And
I've
so
heard this.
He has written books. I guess would he be considered philosophy of science? I believe. And he's written books called Against Method, or I should say papers or whatever it is. Against Method, Farewell to Reason, things like that. And I thought maybe you might like it because he has an anarchistic view of science. He rejects the dogma of rules. And, this idea of always used methods to him just limit things.
There's a reason why the scientific method is effective.
He sees anarchy as being more humanistic. Like, he feels like basically science leads to assholes. He uses examples of episodes in science that are generally regarded as indisputable instances of progress. And he uses Copernicus and the Copernican revolution and shows how basically the rules and the methods were violated. That consistency, this idea of consistency criteria is an unfair advantage on old theories and things like that. You know?
Science was in its infancy during Copernicus's time. Like, his ideas were revolutionary.
Well, we could suggest that we're still in our infancies now compared to what we'll be thinking in the future.
Yeah, but like
possibly, we're always thinking we're at it, and we know the real reality.
Like I said, there's a reason why the scientific method is effective. Like, the scientific method has led to every single scientific discovery that we have in our modern era. Right? If it weren't for the scientific method, we wouldn't have modern medicine, we wouldn't have modern technology, we wouldn't have put people on the moon, and we would not be sending probes to Mars. Mm-hmm. The scientific method is the reason why that works.
Okay, but what has this led to, though?
What do you mean, what has it led to? It's led to enormous discoveries. It's led to, like, leaps and bounds in human development.
What I mean is it's human developments in terms of mapping, let's say, knowledge.
Or the human genome?
Yeah, but I guess what I'm getting at is, it's like saying we're making these huge leaps and bounds to prolong life. but not actually improving it in any way.
How would you define improving life in that case?
Well,
I think like developments in modern medicine is definitely improving life, and that's a result of the scientific method. Like if we reject the scientific method and approach,
I'm not talking about rejecting necessarily.
He's talking about anarchy in the face of science and the scientific approach, right?
Yeah.
That's a rejection of the scientific method. And that means throwing out reams of data and reams of like our current approach.
It doesn't necessarily mean that. It means that to you when you look at it.
There's a really big strain in particularly in the religious community that tend to want to reject science that doesn't come directly from their Holy Bible. Mm-hmm. They want to see there's a huge strain that wants to draw some kind of false equivalence between science and the scientific method and religion as they know it. They want them just to be competing dogmas, and yet that's not at all what the scientific method is. The scientific method is nothing more than a description of how we learn things, how we know things to be true.
I have a quote from Nietzsche over here, who says, "So what is truth? A mobile army of metaphors, metonyms, anthropomorphisms, in short, an aggregate of human relationships which, poetically and rhetorically heightened, become transposed and elaborated, and which, after protracted popular usage, pose as fixed canonical.
Yeah.
It's hard to say words, right? Obligatory. Truths are illusions whose illusionness is overlooked."
It's a good quote. However,
it just sounds cynical to me, and it might be equivocating about truth as truth with a capital T versus like everybody's my truth,
Right, because in order for something to be considered true,
I know my truth.
I know my truth. But in order for something to be considered true, it has to be demonstrable within reality. And in order, like there's a certain burden of proof that every quote unquote fact has to meet in order for it to be considered true. Right? That's the critical thinking approach to truth and factuality, I guess. Like Nietzsche was a great philosopher, but he wasn't a scientist.
Silence. Yeah, no, you're right. He was taking another step forward. Science takes it one step, and he took another step, and I don't know what I'm getting at with steps, but it's another.
Yeah, well, no, but he had kind of an agenda. He had like a project, right, to dismantle the artificially constructed kind of paradigms that we live by unthinkingly, right? Mm-hmm. But science and the scientific method is exactly not that. It's exactly not something we do unthinkingly. It's constantly thinkingly done. So that's why I don't think it's appropriate to apply. Well, that quote's specifically to the idea
of science, knowledge in general, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So you brought up a couple of stories or instances of alternative medicine or alternative healing that you wanted to discuss, Jill.
Yeah, there were a couple of cases that really bothered me specifically. The first one I wanted to bring to you guys was the case of Michaela Salt, who was a native girl from Ontario who had a type of leukemia, who had some type of leukemia that's actually treatable in 90% of cases, but her and her parents chose to forego the conventional treatments of the leukemia to go and seek something that's more in line with their own Aboriginal style of medicine. So they went to this clinic in Florida called the Hippocrates Health Institute, which is run by Brian Clement, and this guy is still working out of Florida, out of this place called the Hippocrates Health Institute. Anyway, so at this health institute, they've got things like these herbal dietary kind of programs to try and kill the cancer with like all natural kind of stuff, and it's obviously a complete rejection of conventional medical techniques, and you'll not hear any talk of like chemotherapy or radiation therapy or anything like this. Now, unfortunately, this Michaela Salt girl actually ended up dying because they had foregone the conventional treatment and had gone with this Hippocrates Health Institute. The thing that really bugs me is that the Hippocrates Health Institute makes claims about its being able to treat these diseases and things like that, but it has absolutely no there's no submission to any kind of regulation. It doesn't conform to any of the regulatory bodies or anything like that. It makes claims about being effective that it can't back up, or that it definitely can't back up, because it just doesn't work, obviously. So they're just basically scamming people. They're snake oil salesmen. They're taking advantage, particularly of Native Americans. I mean, I've actually heard that just this past year, he started again going specifically to the Six Nations communities to start peddling his pseudo medicine. So he's essentially abusing the courts and the law that's protecting Aboriginal rights and taking advantage of Native traditionalism to secure a market of marks and victimize the Native community particularly.
Now, I remember when this story first broke, and I was completely appalled by what happened. Like, I think it's completely criminal for this organization to exist, first of all, and I don't have were the parents eventually charged with negligence? I can't remember if that was a thing.
Yeah, they did go to court. There was actually a second girl that was doing the same thing. A girl that they only named in the press. They were only calling her JJ. Mm-hmm. And with her, they had gone to court, and I know the courts had asked them to actually include conventional medicine in their therapy. So right. They forced the parents to actually include some medicine, and the parents in that case complied. And this was just shortly after, in that same winter that Michaela Salt died. This girl was going through this girl and her family were going through the courts about this, and they actually ended up going to get conventional treatment, and of course the girl has survived.
Right.
Because it's a 90% effective rate. It's not even like a question. The only reason not to do it is because of some type of prejudice, that you're conforming to.
Yeah, it's the same as
that's imposed by your community, I guess.
It's the same as Jehovah's Witnesses rejecting blood transfusions that would otherwise save their children because they don't believe in it based on their religion, and the child ends up dying. It's it's a same or similar situation that could have been easily prevented by using known and effective methods of treatment.
I heard of a case just this past week, actually, of some parents that I don't know if this is actually connected to the alternative medicine stuff, or if it's really just a flat case of neglect. But there was a kid that had diabetes, and they let their kid die, and he died at like 35 pounds.
Yeah, I just saw that this afternoon, actually.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if that's actually another case of the parents wanting to put it in God's hands, right, and pray that their kid get healed, and obviously it didn't.
You guys are talking like it's a bad thing that these people died.
Wow. Is that your angle this time?
I just meant I'm not seeing death as such a bad thing. I don't know. It's fine. Like, to me, this is choosing to die in.
They're not.
In
No,
their
this isn't. This isn't a case of
die.
them choosing to die.
Their parents just.
I'm seeing it as choosing to die.
These people like Michaela Salt, they think that by choosing their alternative course, that they're actually choosing life and a correct way.
Well, right, the correct way to die.
No, they're choosing the correct way to live, to be treated.
Yeah, it was based on their traditions. Like they decided, we're gonna. This is the life that we have for our child. It's based on our traditions, and we're not going to give her we're going to give her traditional treatments as opposed to modern medicine because it's how we live, right? And that caused her death. And to me, that's neglect. That's criminal, and it should never have happened. Like parents have a responsibility to ensure the well-being of their children, right? And in this case, they failed to do that.
Yeah,
I don't. Yeah, I mean, I guess I just don't see anything wrong with dying.
I think, with Michaela Salt, I think she actually went to her and her family. They went to court, and the courts actually sided with their kind of religious and cultural rights.
They did,
and that's what obviously led to the kid's death, right?
Right.
With the other one, there were with the other case, which was just like a few months later. I guess they were like, "Oops," and so they just completely went back on their. So I don't know what these courts are doing, but it sounds like they're just being completely arbitrary to some extent.
I guess I don't really have a problem with that if someone chooses to use traditional medicine because of their cultural beliefs and stuff like that. I mean, it's.
The problem.
It's unfortunate that it's a child that's not able to make their own decisions.
That's the crux of it. If it was an adult that said, you know what, I just want to do like Andy Kaufman and just go and do some like bullshit psychic surgery and stuff like that and if it doesn't work and I die, well, so be it, That's fine, you can do that. But when you're talking about parents that have a responsibility towards another living being that doesn't yet have its full rights of autonomy and consent, there has to be some other kind of oversight there. Like the child isn't old enough to say, what, mommy, this is kind of scary and I think your traditional shit is bullshit, but I can't say that because I'm your kid and you'll punish me for it or whatever.
But that's likely not what the kid's doing because the kid is in it, right?
Sure. But a kid, we all know that a kid is
not a human being until it can change the channel on the TV. I got you.
A child is malleable to the ideas of its parents, and if the parents are suggesting that the traditional way of
there's a vulnerability there,
exactly,
which suggests a level of responsibility.
Yeah, like I totally agree, Gilles. Like
towards continuing to live is basically like the goal always being to continue to live.
No, the goal always being to
The goal is to provide for the well-being of your child.
To provide for the well-being of the child until it can do that for itself, and until it can exercise its own autonomy, right?
The well-being being a healthy life, like
its own will. No. For the child, the well-being is like its survival, so that it can get to a point where it can actually decide for itself how it wants to live, right?
I guess here I'm just No, maybe. I guess it's because I don't see a problem with dying.
Well, I don't see a problem with dying, but I do see a problem with a parent neglecting a child in that way.
But
with a parent basically, a parent is basically stealing the future chance for that child to exercise their self-determination, right? If a parent is neglectful, that's what they're doing. There's an unfairness there. There's a theft basically of the child's chance to actually decide for itself.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm getting at is we are placing the value on being alive. We're suggesting that.
No, that's not where I'm placing my value. I'm placing my value on self-determination. Mm-hmm. And so the crux of it is just give the child a chance to exercise its self-determination, which it can only do after a certain point of development. So until it reaches that point, we kind of have like a duty.
Yeah, like the parent is or should guarantee a child's potential to exercise self-determination up until a certain point when that child is able to do so, right? By exercising this neglect that Michaela Salt's parents did, they were essentially robbing her of her future and her ability to make that self-determination. Right? That I'm in total agreement with you on this one, Joe. Like I see it as they did not allow their child to develop into the person that she could have been. Right?
Mm-hmm. She I would have been fine with Michaela turning 18 or 16 or whatever you want to give a kid their right to self-determination, and her saying, okay, I want to cut off my treatment, and
if at that point she decided, you know what, I'm going to go ahead with this traditional medicine crap,
or please give me the cyanide pill. I'm fine with that too. I'm actually fine with legalizing suicide. I find it's ridiculous that suicide is illegal.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I've always found that was a dumb concept.
Yeah.
I think the reason for it not being legal is because there's a bit of a paternalistic idea out there that anybody who's going to commit suicide or who decides to commit suicide is not in their right mind.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Whereas they might very well be in the right mind.
They might very well, exactly. And so
you're right. That
whose job is it to determine that?
There's a presupposition that continuing to live is better than dying, no matter what. Mm-hmm. Which I feel is a bit strange, but I guess maybe that's.
And I think you were trying to apply that to the argument for protecting a kid's life, but that's not not the premise that I'm basing the argument on. I'm basing it on giving the child the right to decide whether it wants to live or not, by protecting its life until it can make that decision.
I keep on thinking of that Emily Rose movie. You've seen
this
movie?
It sounds like an exorcism movie.
Yeah, it was an exorcism movie, and the priest is charged, and everyone's charged in the end because they didn't. She ended up dying of basically what seemed to be starvation and malnourishment and dehydration and stuff like that.
A lot of abuse.
And to them, they were just going, "No, man, she died because of Satan."
The devil. Kind of thing, the devil did it. Yeah, but no, in the end, she was abused.
I guess what I'm getting at is that they're using their full faculty, and it includes and is just different from medicine. I guess you could say from science. It's
who's
excluding
using whose full faculty?
Well, we're talking about. I'm going back to the case that you were talking about, this child dying.
Yeah.
And how she was neglected.
Yeah. You mean the one that I just heard about recently?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I don't
know enough about that case to be able to comment on it. But in the case of the Emily Rose exorcism, like that's a touchy kind of balancing act between freedom of expression of religion and just basic human rationality.
That concept actually works into the stuff about the Michaela Salt case too, because there's a balancing of the cultural rights of the Native community,
which is why I think the courts first found in the parents' favor.
That's right, because they didn't want to rock the PC boat,
the cultural boat.
Yeah. Like I think there should be a limit to the extent to which one is able to practice freedom of religion. That might sound controversial, but whenever your freedom of religion starts to infringe upon basic human rights, like what happened in the Michaela Salt case.
Yeah, I mean, no state is going to legalize the religious right to sacrifice, right to human sacrifice.
But I don't know if that's necessarily true. If you look at
Western state today.
Western state. That's fair. But again, there are limits to freedom of religion, and there should be, because in some cases there are some very dangerous ideas inherent within some religions, and that's something that we tend to forget in today's modern PC kind of era, right? Especially like when it comes to the exorcism thing. She died as a result of what happened, right? Because they thought it was Satan.
No, instead of getting her conventional mental health treatment or neurological treatment or something, or bringing in the kind of experts that can kind of help to make some kind of diagnosis or treatment.
Different diagnosis.
They decided prejudicially that this looks like my instinct of what devil
a demonic possession.
Looks like. So screw everything but my dogma. I'm gonna follow my dogma because my dogma has supremacy over everything in life.
Right. Exactly. Like it was a case of an extremely.
So I'm gonna bring a priest in here to try and solve the problem.
Yeah.
Medicine be damned. Just because that's pagan. It's
yeah. It was a case of someone's religious propensities overriding but modern science and modern medical treatments, in favor of, like you said, this is what I think demonic possession looks like. We're going to bring in a priest. Fuck medicine. Fuck doctors. This is the cure. We know it based on the Bible, right?
Yeah.
The Bible is telling us that she's being possessed by a demon, so the only way to treat this ailment is by seeking religious help as opposed to medical help. And that's what ended up causing her death. And to me, that's atrocious. I don't think that should ever occur because
Do you have a problem with that death? Like that's another. Was she actually an adult? Emily Rose, or was she still a child?
I don't remember.
Like in that, what do you think? Like in the case, not children, but actually adult. Adult people with a mental health problem. Do you recognize like a responsibility that granted a paternalistic one, but a responsibility that outsiders have to help people who don't have who aren't in the right mind to be able to make responsible decisions about their own health?
I'm of the mind that we should use any faculty available to us to help anyone in any way we possibly can, kind of thing. Sure. I mean, it's all open to debate. It's the Emily Rose case is a case of how do you step on these people's feet with their beliefs and stuff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they have their own beliefs.
My response to that is fuck their beliefs. Get this person help.
But I don't know. I don't know if I can so easily say that because she was also a believer, Emily Rose herself, sort of thing, right? So
yeah, but in
a sense, there's this idea of maybe she died exactly how she wanted to die, and there's nothing wrong with that as well. Like I don't overvalue life versus death or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fine to die as well, So it depends how you want to live and how you want to die, I guess. I don't know. It should be left. It can be left to the individual, I suppose.
I don't know if she had a choice in this case of whether or not she wanted to live or die. I think she was just so far gone by the end of it that she really couldn't choose for herself.
You're right, but I think that we have this tendency in the Western world to really just want to prolong life and not necessarily better it. We want to keep people alive on breathalyzers, not breathalyzers, but hooked up to machines and stuff like that. There's, I can understand.
Yeah, I'm encouraged by the developments about surrounding like doctor assisted
and the right to die and all.
Yeah,
yeah. Like I agree with that.
It's all very slippery slope stuff.
Yeah, it is. But like, I do agree with the person's right to choose whether to live or die. Like if someone is suffering, then it should be their choice whether to terminate their life of their own free will, right? Like they should be able to exercise that faculty. In the case where they are unable to make that decision for themselves, then it falls to either, in the case that if they're a child, then it falls to the parents. And in some cases, the parents will exercise their religious faculty over their other faculties, first and foremost. And in some cases, then if it's an adult and they're incapable of making that choice for themselves, then it falls to the state. And at that point, I don't know where my argument is going. So,
state. Yeah, I have nothing.
You didn't want to go into an anarchist tirade, or?
No, my anarchist side also stays quiet most of the time. Really.
All right, I had another example. If we want to move on from this one, the other example that interested me was the case of dolphin assisted therapy, or DAT.
Super expensive, eh?
It's apparently like some places are charging $2,200
to swim with
for a 5-day program.
I thought it was gonna be like 5 minutes. You got 5 minutes with the dolphin. Give me $2,000. Go.
But no, there's at least one place that's giving them a week.
You're talking about actually swimming with dolphins in the hope that they'll heal somebody.
That they'll cure somebody of their autism.
Autism.
Yeah. that the symptoms of the autism will actually go away because they've been in contact with dolphins.
How the fuck would that work?
Well, essentially it doesn't matter how, because it hasn't worked for anyone. There's not a single person that it's worked with, despite dozens and dozens of these companies around the world that are opening up. There's places in Florida. There's places in Southeast Asia.
Are you serious? Like
they're all over the place.
It should almost have this motto: "Doesn't work, but you'll have a hell of a time." You know?
See, exactly. It's just a standard vacation. So these people who are desperate. I mean, it's not an easy thing to have a child with autism or on the autism spectrum, especially when they're really far on the spectrum, like where they're beyond like nonverbal and stuff like that. The parents can get desperate because it's so difficult, because you constantly have to be on to take care of someone like this, and so they get desperate, and even if they can't afford it, they're basically being compelled to spend thousands of dollars on a plane ticket, on the hotels and the accommodations and the food and everything.
An all-inclusive.
Oh no, it's so not an all-inclusive thing. The $2,200 for the week swimming with the dolphins for. Actually, you know what? I didn't check how long they were giving them on each of those 5 days. So it might very well be like 5 minutes per day for the week.
Where are they getting these dolphins? First of all,
that's the other big thing. Like these things, they're not regulated, and so
the dolphins aren't regulated. Illegal dolphins.
No. The facilities aren't really regulated. So it's not like a fully credentialed zoo or something, where they're procuring these dolphins in a completely above board fashion. There's absolutely, they might be, but there's absolutely no oversight. Yeah. So these are just random places that aren't zoos or whatever. They're just random places that are getting dolphins from wherever they can.
Yeah.
And
charging people. It's like a
and they're
really
charging people to
glorified
swim
petting
with
zoo.
to swim with them. But there's no oversight on how they're procuring the dolphins, how they're taking care of the dolphins. Whether or not the dolphins are already sick and might be introducing diseases for the patients.
Bring your
that are trying to
autistic
get
kid
better.
over and catch syphilis from a dolphin.
I can say,
you weren't supposed to fuck it.
I can say two things with absolute certainty. One, vaccines do not cause autism, and two, dolphins do not cure autism.
So I gotta say, I know two kids. Like, I'm good friends with one guy that is autistic, and his brother is a lesser degree on the spectrum autistic. He's able to go to school and function on his own and stuff like that. But one of my friends is autistic, like autistic savant. Like, I'm talking Rain Man. Like, he writes a letter that's 100 pages long and then can quote passages from it months later, and tell me exactly what page it's on and stuff like that. And in that case, his mom is the fucking nutcase, man. Like, when I'm going and hanging out with them, like she's crazy, and she seems way crazier than her actual autistic kids.
How so? In what way is she crazy?
Neurotic, anxiety-ridden, someone that I wouldn't want to hang out with. Like, I want to hang out with the autistic kids, not like she's difficult. You know what I mean?
Maybe she should swim the dolphins.
Maybe she should swim with the dolphins and have sex with the syphilis dolphins.
Okay, I'm still trying to wrap my head around this idea. Like, where did this idea originate that swimming with dolphins could help cure autism?
I'm gonna say it originated from the owner of the dolphins.
Well, there's some mental health applications for what do you call them? Like service dogs or service animals and things like that, right?
Therapy dogs and whatever.
That's it, exactly. So they figure that maybe this has some kind of effect on the psyche of the
if I'm
child
not mistaken,
with
the
autism.
dolphin is known to, in a sense, be a nice animal. Like they're a kind animal.
Yeah, exactly.
They're friendly and they're intelligent and all that fun stuff.
There's this perception. They always look like they have a smile on their face. They never have.
They're also one of the only animals that have sex for pleasure.
Right,
like,
but it's a bit
anything goes with dolphins. They fuck all the holes.
It's a bit of a misnomer that dolphins are, always benign and friendly towards humans.
We project a hell of a lot on.
We certainly do, because they are fucking intelligent. But there have been documented cases of dolphins just going ballistic and attacking other dolphins for no reason, right? They're not always friendly creatures.
Exactly, and there's no guarantee that these dolphins that are being brought into these facilities from God knows where couldn't just one day like snap and attack a kid in the water with it.
They're fucking dolphins. Like
they're wild animals. There's no guarantee there.
I'm trying to figure this out. Like, where did this come from? Is this a recent thing?
So there have been like some studies that were done on these dolphin assisted therapy programs, or on some of them, or some of them have commissioned studies themselves themselves, right? But the thing is, these studies often don't control for what are known as non-specific effects, which is like improvement from effects that aren't specific to the dolphin.
Right.
Like maybe just the fact of having a vacation might help you feel better for a little while.
Correlation does not equal causation. Right?
Exactly. So some of the effects can be like placebo, like we talked about before too. You have the experience now of having connected with a dolphin.
Sure, yeah.
And also the idea of improvement just from the expectation of improvement, that's part of the placebo effect too, or just the idea of the novelty of the situation. That'll have a psychological effect. So an improvement from a new environment and meeting new people, all that kind of stuff.
All this adds up. It makes sense, right? It's just real expensive.
These kind of studies, they also don't control for experimenter expectancy effects, which is the tendency for experimenters to unintentionally bias the results in accordance with the hypothesis or desired outcome.
Right. Like a lot of these studies just seem way biased. There's no control group. There's no double-blind experimentation.
So they're studies, but they fail once you get to the peer review point.
Exactly.
Once you try to apply any type of verification or standard to it.
Yeah, they're completely flawed.
So not only is it on its face absurd, but it's also tested to be confirmed to be absurd. So
testably absurd.
That shit bugs me. They're taking advantage of desperate parents, sucking their bank accounts dry for an ill-affordable vacation that has no lasting effect on the condition of the supposedly treated.
Yeah,
I still find a lot of what we're saying often points to the problem of capitalism and just taking advantage of people for that reason. Really, it's for a financial gain most of the time.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to just allow snake oil salesmen to go on under the
I feel like the doctors
right?
handing out medication to children and stuff like ADHD and all that stuff. I mean that's just as snake oily as well.
States,
Yeah, it's terrible, man.
Yeah, we're a little better here, but in the U.S., it's big pharma runs rampant just by selling.
I remember the commercials on TV.
They're ridiculous.
Like we never get commercials on TV for drugs.
And around here, just listening to those side effects that are listing, they're worse than the actual ailment.
No, it's true. Do you have a few whiskers above your cheek you'd like above your lip you'd like to get rid of? May cause death. Like trying to get rid of the small.
That's my favorite side effect.
May cause death.
I've seen that in some of these commercials. May cause death. Like what the fuck?
Yeah, for acne. To try to get rid of acne.
Like
some of those acne medications are crazy, man. You're dealing with cancer later on, and it's changed for zit face coming up, God.
Nuts. Well, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to cover in this episode. Because I think we've run the gamut of a lot of things.
Just on the idea of alternative medicine in general, in the States, the NIH, the National Institute of Health in the U.S., they actually had in the 90s started putting money into it to research this stuff and try and confirm it and and all that. They apparently spent more than $2 billion over 2 decades to investigate alternative medicine, and they've got nothing to show for it.
Of course not.
They've got nothing to show for it. None of this stuff has been like brought into the fold of conventional medicine to no longer be called alternative medicine. So basically, the alternative quackery has been disproven.
Most recently too, eh? It seems like they've recently stepped forward and went, all this is bullshit. We've done tests and it seems to be bullshit. We can't find any proof.
If crystals or whatever were able to heal any kind of ailment, doctors would be prescribing crystals to people to heal them. Like, so far, quartz. The only thing quartz is good for is powering a watch.
It is possible that something works that we don't understand works.
If it were possible, it would have been tested and
not necessarily.
Yes, necessarily, because it's this.
No, I think he's right. Not necessarily.
Well, I think it is necessarily true, because this is the kind of thing that's been in the human belief systems for like eons, and so far it has not stood up to any kind of rigorous testing. So if
but I mean it's a case by case thing. We've discussed like 4 or 5 different types of alternative medicine here. Mm-hmm. So throughout the
if what you're saying
podcast,
is
I mean there might be some methods that haven't been confirmed.
Okay, sure, like that I can agree with. But of all the things we have discussed today,
they've all actually undergone the testing required to be able to either confirm it or.
I'm just saying we've got to be careful before we say 99999. We've got to be careful. The truth is we don't know, and we have to approach things going, we're not sure. No, am I wrong?
Well, the problem I have is that if you want to propose by some hypothesis, no matter where you got it, that this could be medicine, that this could be a remedy for ills that are out there for people, then
test it scientifically.
Why call it alternative medicine? Why not say, hey, I think this could work. Let's test it. If it works, it's medicine.
Exactly.
I think the alternative medicine is about as valid as alternative facts.
Exactly. They're both bullshit.
Right, you're basically saying alternative medicine, as soon as we find out it works, it's just called medicine.
That's it.
So alternative medicine is, right, it is comparable to alternative medicine.
So when these people want to use the term alternative medicine, I think they're kind of subconsciously admitting that it's bullshit.
Mm-hmm. So alternative, we can replace the word alternative with bullshit.
Yeah.
Bullshit
in a lot of cases.
Yeah. You can, in a lot of cases. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. If someone were to come up with an idea and say, this is a potential new cure for insert ailment here, then put it through the paces and test it, make sure, put together a hypothesis, put together a theory, test it in lab.
There's no such thing there's no such thing as alternative medicine. There's only not yet medicine.
Right.
If you have a hypothesis, you're not going to call it alternative medicine until you've tested it. You're just going to call it not yet medicine. It's not yet been confirmed.
It reminds me of that quote, the chaos quote. I can't remember what the quote was, but I quoted it on Facebook earlier. What was it?
I can't remember.
I can't remember either. It was from the movie Enemy. It was the quote from the beginning, written by the author of the book that became Enemy. And the quote is something.
Good movie. I don't remember.
Chaos is just, what is it? It's
chaos is order yet undeciphered.
Order undeciphered.
Is order undeciphered yet undeciphered.
Oh. Okay.
Something that I wanted to bring up was a guy by the name of Jean-François Lyotard. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce his name, but he's the guy that's skeptical of the grand narratives in philosophy and stuff like that. And he was suggesting that the rigidity and mechanistic nature of structuralist analysis is ultimately reductionist, reducing everything to certain patterns and formulas, and is in that sense logocentric. Yeah. So in a sense, he's just pointing out that it too is biased. Everything has its bias. Everything is biased.
Sure.
And everything, in a sense, closes us off. And I just feel like we have to be very careful. There is a lens. Open.
There is a lens to the empiricist outlook.
And it's just.
But I don't think all lenses are equally deceptive or equally distorting of the truth.
Mm-hmm. Well, sure, we're talking about equalities in a realm that doesn't speak in terms of equalities and stuff like that, sure.
We're talking about what functions and what doesn't, right?
Mm-hmm. And thus far, the scientific method functions very, very well.
You're playing it's the best game so far. It's the
science is that's like that argument about like capitalism or democracy, where they say it's the best game. It might not be perfect, but it's the best thing we get.
I hate that argument.
Yeah, I do.
And I don't speak against science. Don't get me wrong. I just feel like we are very logocentric, right? We think that the way we're thinking is the shit, and we have our bias, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think other cultures view illness very differently from the way that we see it, and they do often see it as stemming from mental blockages and stuff like that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Have you ever,
Sure. But if everybody has the same goal of wanting to not be ill, then there's some outlooks that are more productive than others in achieving that goal.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. So they might have the intuition or prejudice that or cultural prejudice that to get rid of the illness, you have to be applying these alternative medicines and things like that to it, because God damn it, that's what my grandma told me or my grandpa told me, but we do have competing systems that have a better track record, or any track record.
It has a track record.
We've
made a track record.
We've made a track record. Yeah.
It's been tested and it works.
I to some extent, like you mentioned, like the reductiveness of it. I think was it Yataka that was actually saying that?
Well, yeah. I'm not sure if he was
either.
I should probably never quote anyone with anything. But yeah.
But I find it's just as reductive to be reducing some of these I guess tools that have been developed in a Western cultural context and reducing them to an arbitrary cultural artifact or something. Mm-hmm. The tools are tools, and there are certain things that transcend culture, right? That can have arisen in a specific cultural context.
Mm-hmm. To quote Neil deGrasse Tyson as my parting word, science works whether or not you believe in it.
What a dick. Yeah, doesn't make him a nice guy, does it?
So smug.
All right. I think this is a good place to wrap it up. This has been Critical Junction episode 10. I'm Mark.
I am not Mark. I'm Luke.
God.
I'm Jill. Bye.
As always, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you again next time.